Hey guys, it's Tom at Service Nation. We are here in Charlotte for our regional Eastern Summit, and we're honored, we're blessed to have the one and only Jenn Shue here. But I don't call her Jenn, I call her the powerhouse.
Oh, goodness.
And watch and see what I mean by that. And so, Jenn, it's so good to have you here.
Thank
so
you.
good to have you working your magic here at the summit. But for those that may not know you, they may not know your background, share a little bit about how you, what did you do before you got into the trades? And what are you doing now? Where are you working at?
Okay, so before I got into the trades, I was in the military right out of high school. Then I became a mom, so that was a whole lifespan there. And then I went to culinary school and college for hotel and restaurant management, and decided I didn't want to do that once I was done with it. My kids were headed into high school. I wanted to spend more time with them. Found a local company that was looking for somebody to work in the office part-time. And 20 plus years later, here I am, still in industry. I have done every position out there known to man, except for actually going out and fixing the equipment.
Yeah.
And now I am the general manager of a heating and plumbing company. So it's a big
GM.
The GM.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. And so 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago,
Yes.
I'm at the office and I bump into her and I'm like, oh, wow, who is this? We need her to work her magic within the organization, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, Jenn, wow. And so talk about some of the things. What was the first thing you started doing at Service Nation in terms of working your magic with contractors? What was the first thing we twisted your arm into doing?
The first thing you twisted my arm into doing was talking on the AB groups and presenting on AB groups. The first one was AB 80. That's actually how Tom heard about me. Was you guys saw my presentation there on KPIs and tracking, and then I presented on your group. And then after that, Tom called me and said, I got an offer for you. And that set the premier coaching in place then. And I signed up for that. And maybe 2 weeks later, Bob Veering said, want to be an advisory board mentor? And I was like, sure, let's do it. And it has just snowballed from there. And that was February 21, 22.
Time flies.
And that October was my first speaking event at a conference.
Nice.
It was a panel discussion. I'd never done anything like that before. Terrified. And now this is my third conference speaking. Last one was my very first breakout session. It was supposed to last 45 minutes. We went almost an hour, which was great.
That's a good sign.
It is a good sign. And now I'm presenting here again, which is great.
Yeah.
So
you'd mentioned you are an advisory board mentor. So for those that may not be familiar with some of our secret sauce, so that's group coaching led by an awesome contractor that has some areas of expertise, some skill sets. So talk about, what does an advisory board mentor do? What are those dynamics like? What do they get out of hanging out with you once a week?
So we don't just mentor the call. We moderate the call. We try and make sure there's an ebb and a flow, no dead spots in the time, because as business owners and managers, that hour of time on the call is very valuable to you. So we want you to take away as much as possible. We focus on, sometimes it's handling of issues that we're all having that week, or a particular issue that one of the contractors has run into that week. So as a team on that call, we all talk and brainstorm and help walk you through kind of ways to resolve that, instead of you trying to figure it out by yourself. So it's your own sounding board, you know, and going through that process. But other times we're focusing on your numbers and looking at everybody's numbers, so that when you feel like your call volume is dropped, you're seeing everybody's has, oh wow, everybody's is picked up. If your margins aren't where they're supposed to be, your equipment pricing isn't rough, other people are going to see that quicker than you are, because it's your baby. Sometimes you don't see the pressure points, the way that somebody else is going to zero in on it. So it's been a learning curve the first year. I'm not going to lie, it was a big learning curve. Now I'm running 3 of them. So, and they're all different in those aspects. And you've got a great mix of different companies in there and what they bring to the table and what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Some companies have been in business for 15 or 20 years and are at 1 million, where other companies are 2 years in and they're at 1 million. So we're all learning from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so GM of an HVAC and plumbing company,
Yes.
you got to have some mad skill sets. So if we've got some GMs, or maybe somebody that wants to be possibly in the future a GM, what are some of the pro tips you would give them on, hey, this is what it takes to be a good GM. This is what you got to bring to the table. What would you say?
One, they have to be flexible because it changes every day. Every day. I know you're supposed to have job descriptions for everything. I don't necessarily have a job description because as a GM, I'm the glue that fills in all the spaces and I support my team. They're not supporting me. And that's the biggest takeaway that I probably have over the role that I have, is being a support for my team.
Yeah.
Right. So that they know I'm there. I have their back no matter what. I'm going to jump in where they need it. And just being supportive. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. HVAC plumbing, it's a male dominated industry. Both industries are male dominated. You're a female GM. What advice would you give to maybe females that want to get into the trade, ladies that want to be in management? I mean, what would you share with them in terms of what they need?
Be patient, right? Because it takes a while for them to open up and welcome you wholeheartedly into the group. And not because they don't want a woman there. They're just not used to a woman being there or staying for long, because it's a male dominated industry. It takes a little bit longer. And be yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like these men don't have women in their lives. They have women in their lives and those women are important to them. You can become equally as important if you're just patient.
Yeah.
And that's what they need the most.
Gotcha.
Be yourself.
Nice. Oh, so speaking of being yourself, you were in the military.
Yes, I was.
Does some of the things you learned in the military, I don't know, I'm just curious, does some of the things in the military, did they kind of roll over into being a GM?
A lot of it does. For me, it's always putting things in the boxes where they belong and setting my team up for success and not failure. So if I see them failing, it comes back to me as their leader. Did I train you right? Did I communicate this effectively?
Love it.
And if I didn't, then I need to address that. And then we're going to move forward with that. If we move forward with it and it's still coming down, I'm tearing the whole thing apart and I'm going to start all over. Because that's the military way. Pile it all in the middle of the room and then put it back where it goes.
Yeah.
And they respond to it really well.
Yeah.
You know, that I don't become the drill sergeant because that's not what my role was in the military. But I have a really good appreciation for structure and chain of command and organization in there. We're only going to be our best selves when we prepare ahead of time to do that. So that's where that comes into play with them.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, as a GM, you direct report to the owner. Talk about what a good GM does in terms of that relationship to the owner, you know, expectations, responsibilities.
In my dynamic as a GM for my owner, I want to take everything off of his plate. I don't want him to have to worry about anything other than sharing his vision with me and having me help him implement that. That's where he's most valuable. But that's where he excels, is becoming that visionary. For me, I excel at implementing and getting the pieces and playing chess with all of the moving parts in the company. And that's what I tell the guys all the time. It's a chess game and I have to move all of you around and do everything. So be just a little bit patient with that process. But for him, it's taking as much as I can off of his plate.
Awesome. Making his life easier. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you have areas of expertise. And one way to kind of get you to talk about those is, what problems could contractors have that you're like, I got that. I can help you with that.
Their software. That's software. The CRMs that they use, not so much QuickBooks. While I can get in there and help you figure out and make things map where they want to, just their software systems, their CRMs. A lot of companies don't understand how to use what they've paid all that money and what they pay all the money for every month.
Yeah.
And the companies that we purchase them from don't necessarily do a fantabulous job of onboarding.
Yeah.
and because they built the software the way they think it works, not the way we need it to work.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the first place.
Excellent. So go back to your first presentation at AB80, where I would say you were discovered. And if I remember right, I think you were sharing a tool. There was a process or a tool that you were using, you know, at your company, and it was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about what that was?
So that's my scorecard. It is derivative from the EOS platform. So it's very much tracking for each technician, calls run, calls closed, their, you know, closing average, closing rate, and, you know, average ticket per department, potential for maintenance customers where they converted to maintenance, was a potential to convert to an install. All of those things were tracked on that one scorecard. And that one scorecard talked to 5 others. But it was sharing all of that with everybody to see that while it looks like a lot of information, I'm only plugging information in one area, but it's giving me all the data I need to process everything across the board for the company.
I love it.
And that flows into setting up your budget for the year. And like we talked about in a couple of other groups here today, that big number and dwindling it all the way down to knowing how many calls you need to run and the close rate on those calls.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't understand that concept. So that's my happy place. I want to get in that spreadsheet. I want to look at those numbers. I want to look right at it and be like, your close rate's too low.
I love it.
Or your close rate's high, and your guys are hitting their numbers, but you're not providing enough calls for them not to have to run more calls to get that number.
Love it. Awesome. So you're getting ready to do a workshop tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Talk a little bit about what the workshop is, what you hope to be some of the takeaways that somebody that attends your workshop in Charlotte experiences.
So tomorrow's workshop is on setting KPIs and building those off of your budget that you've created for the year, and using those KPIs to motivate your team and incentivize them to help you hit those goals.
Yeah.
And setting, creating a performance plan for them and a pay for performance plan for them based off of all of those numbers.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I tell people all the time that going through culinary school, the first class you take, they literally make you take a math test and teach you how to go from a teaspoon all the way to a gallon. And that is literally, that's what we do with a budget, is we take that gallon and we bring it all the way down to a teaspoon.
I hope you guys got that. That's golden. Golden.
So you take it from a gallon, you take it to a teaspoon, and now you know how to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And then the only thing you have to focus on is that one number. Sometimes we take our plumbers and our HVAC technicians and we overwhelm them with all these numbers that we have to have. You just need one.
Wow.
You give me that one number.
Wow.
Everything else is going to fall into place.
I love it.
As owners and GMs and people on your leadership team, we need to know all those other numbers.
Yeah.
But if we just drill it down to one, we already ask so much of our technicians and plumbers.
Yeah.
You know, be salespeople, get dirty, be hot, be sweaty, you know, do all of these things, present options, be friendly at the door, don't be intimidating. Oh, and by the way, I need you to remember these 8 numbers too when you walk in there.
Yeah.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one.
Jenn, I love it. I love it. And if you didn't have a chance to be at the Charlotte Summit, man, you missed out on talking to Jenn. But you'll have a chance. So Jenn, why should people come to events like this? If they couldn't make Charlotte, why should they go to Reno? What is the benefit to come to summits like this?
Summits like this are what build relationships like this. I wouldn't know half of the things that I know if it weren't for summits and events like this, and advisory boards, and phone calls, just networking, building that relationship with people. And the differences that we're making here with Service Nation and these events, they're more focused on very specific targets and issues that all of the companies are having internally. So I need these events to recharge. Yeah. And that's what I do. I'm coming here to learn from the best, the people that are already experiencing these issues and how they solve them.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. So GM, premier coach, workshop presenter,
advisory board
board mentor.
I am also on the board of directors with PHCC of North Central Texas, and the Texas chapter lead for women in plumbing and piping.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And
Talent,
yeah.
talent through and through.
Yep.
Yeah, that's excellent. Any final thoughts or words of encouragement? Let's say you have somebody watching this that isn't familiar with a best practice group.
Right.
You know, of course, we love Service Nation. We're
Mhm.
biased to Service Nation. It's made a difference in our lives.
Mhm.
But in general, what do you see the value of a best practice group like Service Nation or similar?
Mhm.
What are
So 20 plus years in the industry. The first 15 years, I didn't even know anything like this existed. I didn't know it was an industry. Quite honestly, it was an HVAC company that I worked for. And then I got hired by a second one. I had no idea. Then I moved to Texas, and my current boss was a member, and eventually was like sitting on my call with me. And it was like a whole new world opened up. And then the first conference that he took me to was in Vegas a few years ago.
Mm.
I was terrified. I didn't know anybody, literally didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And I spent the whole thing just sucking from the fire hose. I had no idea what I was there for. And now here I am 5 years later,
Mhm.
and I know everybody here because of networking and coming to events and the calls and going to training classes. I know everybody here. I've learned so much
Mhm.
from everybody here because in this group, everybody shares.
Yeah,
Yeah, everybody shares.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest takeaway.
that's awesome.
Everybody shares.
Yeah. Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, the mission of Service Nation is to change contractors' lives for the better. Hopefully you've seen
Mhm.
how Jen's life was changed, but now how she's changing other contractors' lives.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving back,
Thank you.
pouring into other contractors,
Mhm.
getting them to see the hope, getting them to see the success. Just continue to work your magic, Jen. You're awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.